Okay, well, welcome to today's team call. I'm really excited for this call because this is honestly my favorite sort of call because I feel like it's super productive to actually learn the things that'll move your business forward and like to have confidence to know what those things are. So, yeah, today we're going to talk about just basically when you sit down to work, what are the things that are most important to do to move your business forward? So, let's go ahead and open up in prayer and then we'll get started. God, I just thank you so much for all of these people on the call and the ones listening to the recordings and working on their own today. I just pray that as we talk today, you would give us the confidence to truly believe that everything we want to accomplish in this business is possible, and that you would just fill us with belief and the ability to take action and truly to serve people here in a really powerful way. I just pray too that you would get rid of any doubt or fear that might be in our mind right now, and that you would just replace it with confidence. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay, so first of all, how's everybody doing? Let us know in the chat how your week's going. I feel like around here, anyway, there's a lot of sickness going on. And so I've been dealing with sick kids, and it's like I'm getting to that boiling point where I'm like, okay, we all just, it's like if someone's sick every day, and it just like we need to get through that. But it's also, it's nice to have them at home sometimes too, because you get those moments of quality time together that you don't always get when they're in school. So trying to look for the blessings, it's like that balance of you want to be productive, but you also want to focus on what matters most and all that stuff, right? But yeah, really excited to do this call. I know that, when it comes to working your business, sometimes you just kind of need to like regroup and go, okay, am I doing the things that really matter most? And so what I'd like to do today is just go through basically the list of things that we should all be focused on. And I feel like if I have one superpower in this business, it's that I just keep it very, very simple, and try not to overcomplicate things because it doesn't have to be simple. There's a lot of people that make a lot of money trying to sell these fancy trainings and systems and, all the things to have success. And while there might be some value in those, I think that there's more value in just learning how to become extremely disciplined with the simple stuff that truly will serve the people around you, and at the end of the day, produce results for your business. So, I wanted to also just quickly touch on the fact that things here at Shackley are very different than they were if you came from Body. I know not everyone came from Body, but I do want to touch on that because what I saw happen a lot in the few years, I would say, with Body is that even though we're disciplined with the really simple stuff, it didn't always pay off. And so that got to be kind of discouraging because you felt like, gosh, I am working really hard, but yet I don't feel like my business has moved to a point where I'm excited about the progress. And so I want to just, share that because that's just real, right? Let me make sure. That's just real, and that's just like it's a valid feeling that a lot of us had. But the good news is that it's so different here. And for anyone that has done these business building activities consistently for a period of time, you've learned that already. And for those of you that haven't quite gotten into a good groove with your business yet, I can promise you that once you do focus on these consistently, you too will go, okay, yep. I have confidence that if I just show up and do these things, like my business will move forward too. But I want to acknowledge that there might be some trust issues there a little bit, just because if you were at Body, you might wonder, oh, is it really worth my time? Is it really something that I should pour into? Um, so the before I go into just like the checklist, and this is going to be like a working call where we kind of talk through things. I want to start with talking about belief because what I have learned in my business is that when I lack belief, I lack results. And a lot of times that's because, I'm just at this point where I'm not. truly believing that I can do something. Like I might be going through the motions, but I might not truly have the energy that's behind it. And so the thing that happens when we have belief is that we take action. And so when you believe that something is possible, you're going to be that much more apt to like truly show up day in and day out. And sometimes it's a fight for that belief. Lindsay, can I pick on you for a minute? I won't ask you to talk, but I want to, maybe I will, but I want to just share something that Lindsay shared with me, that I thought was like so powerful. So she shared that the last few months, and I think this is so just like vulnerable and real for so many of us in different aspects of our lives. But I think we've all had those points in our business where we like want to believe, right? Like we want to believe that we can do it. We want to believe that we can take action. We want to believe that we can hit director and move on and do all the things. But then it's like we just can't quite get there, right? We just can't quite get to that point where we're consistent. And so Lindsay had shared with me, and she's been doing such a great job. I mean, last month she showed up and she's been showing up consistently, but last month I would say she really upped her ante and like was super consistent and, got over the 500 PTV, was well on her way to director. But she's shared with me, she's like, I keep thinking, is this the month that I'm going to have like that full belief? Is this the month that, I'm going to really go for this? And I just loved like the way that she described that, I think is so powerful because it's how so many of us feel. And maybe we wouldn't have those like beautiful words like she had to actually describe that. But I do think that that's what's going on for a lot of us in our businesses is that, we want to do it. We want to go for it. We want to do all these things. And we're like, we can tell that we're working our courage up to getting to that point, but there's sometimes these like mind blocks that happen. And so I just loved what Lindsay shared. And I want to just share with anyone that might be in that same boat, where you're like, this business sounds really cool. It sounds like something that I want to do. I really want to go for it. Like I see some of these people really going for it and like I want to get there. And I'm just not quite there yet. I want to say to you, like, keep fighting because as you keep showing up and as you keep taking action, you will get to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, like this is working. I'm actually doing this. Um, yeah, Christy says it too. See, and Christy is a top leader on our team, and she says still, like, it feels a little bit wonky for her to be in this new business, to be taking this action, and she's like trying to like do it, right? And but every day she keeps showing up and she keeps having the faith and she keeps going for it. But for those of you who are in that boat where you're just like your beliefs a little bit shaky, I just want to remind you to continue to focus on personal development because I think for a lot of us, that's how you truly get to that next level as well. It's going on calls like this, leaning in, not being by yourself, right? Like, and sometimes, like, let's just be real, it's hard to hop on these kind of calls. I know I've been like that in my business where I'm like, oh, there's a team call, and I almost get like anxiety. Like, am I worthy to hop on a team call? Like, do I have anything to contribute? Like, I don't even know if I'm in a place where I can do this, right? So for those of you that are on this call, I would just say, wow, like that's a big step to even be on a team call and or to listening to the recording if you can't be on live. But then also, yeah, really dialing into that personal development. So I thought, it might be helpful for us to share with each other in the chat if there's any personal development that you have found to be really helpful lately, if you could just pop those podcasts in there or books or anything that you're just like, oh my gosh, this is so good. One book that I have not personally read myself, but it keeps popping up and I think I'm going to need to read it soon is the new book by Mel Robbins. Have you guys seen that one out there called like Let Them or something like that? I think that one's good. I know that there's so many great devotionals out there that just give you a little word in the morning to, get on your way. But there's so many great podcasts out there. And so when you find yourself in that funk of like, I'm gonna like push my business off to the next day because I'm not in the mindset, just want to challenge you to find some personal development and then take action after that. Okay, I'm gonna read this, what I'm seeing in the chat because if you're listening to the recording, you won't be able to see the chat. So, Yes, let them. Susan said Dare to Dream and Work to Win by Dr. Tom Barrett. By the way, I shared Susan in our chat yesterday, but I'm gonna give her a shout out here too because honestly, Susan could be your personal development because I tell you what, like I love following her and she is so wise and she always has like just these little snippets of wisdom that you're like, yes, that's so good. So also follow Susan if you need some personal development because she does her personal development every day and she's always full of wisdom to share. Um, Let Them, okay, confirmation that Let Them is a really good book. That's awesome. Um, Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima. Oh, I've been wondering about that book. I'm so glad to hear that it's a good one. Dawn said she just got Worthy. Awesome. Okay, pop anything else in the chat. And if you don't have anything to pop in the chat, I'm guessing maybe you could need to up your personal development because maybe that's an area that we just haven't been spending. And I know, again, we all go through seasons like that where, especially coming off the holidays, where you're just taking care of your kids all the time. And so you maybe don't have a lot of time to like pour into yourself. So just a reminder just to always start there because if you go through a checklist without the right mindset, you will come up like just like it won't feel fun. It won't be fulfilling. You won't have the energy to really get out there and sell and share how you want to share. Casey also said how to achieve your goals in 6 simple steps on the Mel Robbins podcast. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So we are going, okay, I'll read this last one too. Atomic Habits, Compound Effect, 12-week year. Those are so solid, Andrea. I'm so glad you shared those because those are really, really solid books. Building a Story Brand. Okay, awesome. The Power of One More. Okay, great. We're getting a lot of good ideas, so be sure to write those down if you need some help there. But for me, I even find just like if I'm walking and listening to some kind of podcast or if I'm in my car, I mean, a lot of us are driving kids around right now, all that kind of stuff, just always having something positive going into your brain instead of just like pop music, like something deeper, right? To go into your brain is going to help you big time as a business owner. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and share a really simple tracker that I shared, I don't know, maybe last month or month before. I forget when I put this out. But it's called the Right Tracker. And I will say, you're going to look at this and you're going to be like, can you guys see that? Yeah. You're probably going to be like, that's it? Like, that's just so simple. But yeah, it doesn't have to be super complicated to build this business. So this Right Tracker is something that we created because, Shackley does have a business activity tracker and it's really great. So feel free to grab that in the back office if you want to. It may be in our team page too. But sometimes even that tracker, it just has a little too much on it to feel like it's something you want to approach. So my thing for new ambassadors, especially, is like I just want you taking action on something consistently. And so even this list, that even if this list looks like too much, that's okay. Like just start with a few of them and then add on as you feel like you have the capacity to. But I'm just going to kind of walk through this list and I want you to know that no one is perfect either. So don't hold yourself to the standard of perfection. Like I have areas in my business all the time where I'm like, oh, I haven't been doing enough of that lately, or I haven't been doing enough of that. And I need to tweak. And that's just, it is what it is. You can take action and it's not going to be perfect. Don't be afraid of taking messy action. Taking some action is better than no action at all, right? It's kind of like what we say about our workouts. There's days where you're like, I just don't feel like it. But gosh, even if you just do 10 minutes, you feel so much better. And so the same is true with building confidence in your business, that even if you just have a little bit of time to show up, that's great. Now, before I get into this, I also wanted to quickly touch on creating work hours for yourself because when you have your own business, or this kind of a business, it can be really easy to push it to the back burner because it's just not in your routine yet. And so life might get busy, especially if you have a different job or, you whatever. We're all busy with different things. And so what really helped me when I was building my business at Body to start was like when I started, I was all over the place and I was really frustrated because I was like, I just feel like I'm spinning my wheels kind of, like I can't get into a good groove. And so I really had to treat this like a real job, meaning that I had to look at my schedule every week and decide when are my business hours going to be. Because if you don't do that, it's really easy to skip it. This business is really simple to do, but it's also really simple not to do if you're not intentional. So I'd love for us to quickly share this too. If you have like business hours or you figured this out, or you might have some tips to share with people, will you let us know what works for you? Because what I also don't want is for this business to totally take over your life and for you to feel like you have to be doing it 24/7 in order to be successful. Because what I love is when people can get a good schedule down, you clock in, you do the main stuff on this tracker, you clock out, you might check in on a few things here and there, but for the most part, it's like, okay, I'm going to sit down, get a bunch of stuff done, and then I'm like, I'm good for the day, right? Like I don't have to second guess myself or anything. So can you guys share in the chat, or if anyone wants to share, just what works well, you know, for you? Like, does anyone, and even if you want to share, um, like what works well for you in terms of having different business hours? I'm gonna stop my share and see if anyone wants to. And this is going to change too, by the way. I remember when I first started, I thought, oh, if I could just figure this out, right? And at the time I had four under four, four kids under four, and so I did. I figured it out for a season. And then what happens is kids get a little bit older, and then you're like, oh, okay, they're not napping anymore, or oh, they're in school, or like this new season I'm in with kids a little bit older is, oh, I cannot work at all hardly in the evenings because I'm running my kids around to activities. So you always have to kind of make it work for you. But my point is that, just like if you were to have a job at a Starbucks or wherever else, and you have to show up, you would get your schedule, and then if you wanted to get paid, you would have to show up and work those hours. The same is true here. It's not like you can just get lucky and get rich just by like signing up as an ambassador. Like you have to put in those hours. It doesn't have to be a ton, but it has to be consistent. Okay, someone said that you work during your kids' nap time, and when I'm working on my breaks and lunches and an hour after work. Okay, I love that. That's so great. Lauren says she does her biggest chunk of work from 3:50 to 5:50 a.m. Wow, that's amazing. That's very inspiring. Clee said that she works her business at 5 a.m. before she works out and then she works out at 6, and then she gets her kids ready for school. She also works full time, so then she does an hour at night. Okay, I love that. Yes, yes, and sports practices, sometimes you can sneak work in there too. I know I do that too. Okay, so yeah, I love this. So just first of all, think through when are you going to do this? Because if you learn all these things on this to-do list, but you still don't have it built into your schedule, you're not going to end up taking the action either. So, okay, let's dive in here. All right, so the first thing that I have on this is to post to your free Facebook group once a day. And this is something that hopefully you all have your free Facebook group up. I know that I've had, like, since I've started, months where I'm really good at this and months where I like hardly am posting at all. So I know again, this is for me something that I'm always working on. But one idea that Liz Huber had a few days ago. I was like, Liz, you always have the best ideas. But she was like, yeah, she's like, I just kind of feel like I haven't been, like I have had so many new people that have joined my free group that I kind of want to like revamp or relaunch in my free group and kind of reshare the stuff that I did in the beginning. And I thought, wow, what a great idea to just do that. So if it's been a little while since you started, that would be an idea for content, is just to kind of go back and share or reshare the stuff about Shackley that you really found to be exciting when you joined. Um, but that free Facebook group should always be something that you're like adding value to. And there is so much content if you go on the Shackley website, and you go under the tools. I should actually stop this and show you guys where this is at, just in case anyone doesn't know this. But if you go to shackleytools.com, There is so much awesome content that you could grab for your free groups. So if you go under this, like view the collection, I mean, there's so much information about all the products here. Like, it is awesome. And I find that the more I look at, the more that I just get so excited about this business because you realize just how quality all these products are. But Wellness Communities is awesome because it has all of these free group ideas. And sometimes, like, you don't even have to go through the whole thing, right? Like, for example, this pantry takeover. I mean, you could run a group inside your free group about for the pantry takeover. But you could also just grab a graphic or two and pop it in your free group here or there, like just something that's interesting to you. Because if it's interesting to you, it's going to be interesting to the people in your group. So you can see here, there's recipes. There's also just like different tips, hunger versus craving. So it's all like free value add stuff that you can add into your free group. Some of it you could even pop onto your Instagram stories. Um, but keeping in mind that the free group that we have on Facebook can be a really powerful place to keep building those connections with people because they opted in to be in your free group and to be in that private group with you. So they want more from you. And that's one thing I really want to ramp up this year is doing more live videos. I think the free groups, whenever I do a live video, I usually end up getting a sale or two because people just love those live videos. I don't know what it is, but I think they feel connected to you in a different way. So to share even about a product, to do an unboxing, like every time you get your loyalty order, those are some ideas for your free group. Does anyone have any questions about this first one, posting to your free group? Okay, let's all take, I'm gonna set a quick timer here. Let's all take like 3 minutes and just post something. If you haven't already today, go ahead and post something to your free group that you find interesting, and then we will meet back here. Let's say I'll give you 4 minutes. We'll meet back here in like 4 minutes. All right, once you have your post up in your free group, why don't you just if in the chat, just quick let us know like what did you post about today? Um, I posted the little graphic that shows the benefits of taking a multivitamin that I just saw in the Shackley tools. And the cool thing too is some of us are in each other's free groups, and so you can get ideas from other people too. So if you have teammates that you want to be in their free groups, I think that that's really awesome as long as all of us are kind of creating our content. So it's not like one thing that we only have to share every day, but that's an idea too. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on just to keep this going here. All right, the next one that is on here is posting to your social media feed. I put 3 to 5 times a week. Ideally, like in a perfect world, you would do this almost every day, right? But honestly, it has just shifted so much in the last several years. When a lot of us started on social media, there wasn't stories, there wasn't like live videos, there wasn't reels, and so it was a lot easier to like do a post every day. Well, now there's a lot more going on with social media, and so I think a healthy place to shoot for is 3 to 5 times a week. And I know again, this is another area for me that I am working on improving because sometimes I get in these creative ruts where I'm like, what should I post about? Because I love posting to my stories, and I'm like, well, what should I post about on my feed? And so, but what I have found, like, there's a lot of different strategies out there when it comes to posting on social media, and certainly follow whatever feels best to you. What I have found is that when it comes to like building trust with people and sharing on social media, and again, this probably has to do too with the types of people that I like to follow. So think about that too. Like, what kind of people do you like to follow? I personally like to follow people that are sort of sharing a little bit about their personal lives. Like, I want to get to know their family. If they have kids, I want to see their kids. If they have a spouse, I want to see a photo of their husband or whatever. I kind of want to like know who they really are. Of course, I think it's fun to follow like huge accounts that do like, the more um like targeted, let's say they're just doing like funny mom reels or they're just doing workout videos. Like those are fun and inspiring to follow in my opinion too. But I don't always feel it's connected to those sorts of people like personally. And so for me, what I enjoy sharing more on my feed is kind of a mix of I share some mom life, I share some workout stuff, you know, um, what else? Like recipes or just encouragement. So I kind of share just more well-rounded who I am to my feed. But again, that's what draws me in. That's who I would follow. That's who I would choose to build a business with. And that might be different for you, but that is, yeah, results, all that kind of stuff, to build that trust. But your feed should be something too that is fun, right? That is fun for you to share about, that you're passionate about sharing, and stuff that just like also adds a lot of value to the people that follow you. Of course, it's important to have some calls to action as well, and I have that on there too, but not every single post can be a sales post. You know what I mean? Like the people that are just posting to sell, or like every single post is like a before and after, or just trying to sell something, like that can feel a little bit exhausting if you're following someone like that because you sort of feel like they're just trying to sell. Now, selling's not bad. I'm not saying we can't do that stuff. It just can't be every single post. So, that's just my encouragement for posting to your social media feed. We won't do that today on this call because I know for me, posting to my feed like takes creative focus one-on-one with myself. But just something to work toward. And again, if you don't get there right away, that's okay. But just have that be your goal to be consistently posting to your feed. Okay, so the next thing on the list is 3 to 5 Instagram stories a day. And I would say at a minimum, that would be a minimum. Um, with sharing your favorite Shackley products with at least one call to action per day. So I will just say that the majority of my sales do come from my Instagram stories. And so I have it set up where I post to Instagram and then it automatically shares to like my Facebook page. If you don't have a public page, just you could have it shared to your personal profile. Um, but sharing Shackley products that you use every day it should be something that you get that is fun for you to share, right? You don't just want to be going through the motions, but think about those products that you really love because the ones that you love, those are the ones that people are going to want to try too. So what I'll say with this is that yes, it's okay to share photos of the products. I think I do like a mix. Sometimes I'll share a photo of a product. What I'll always do is a photo of the product and then usually some sort of text on top. So I have, for those of you that have Apple phones, I have like a shared note that I've shared with a bunch of you. If you don't have that, let me know and I can add it to you or I can add you to that. But what I try to do is whenever I add text on top of my stories, I try to just like paste a lot of the wording in there. And then that way you guys can feel free to duplicate whatever, if there's any wording that resonates with you that you want to share, you can feel free to add that to your stories too. But I do some photos and then sometimes it's talking into your stories, like sharing with people why you like something because and that's something that if you are not comfortable yet speaking into your stories, I would encourage you to get comfortable as fast as you can with that because I just feel like for a lot of people that are sharing to their stories, the missing link a lot of times is you're not talking into your stories. Because when you talk into your stories, people get to know you for you. And it's not just you selling, but it's you sharing why do you believe in this? Why does this make a difference for you? Why do you believe that it could make a difference for them too? And it feels much more genuine when you can talk into your stories versus only sharing photos. And just again, think of who do you like to follow and what draws you in because those are going to be the same kinds of things that draw other people in. Some of you guys do a really, really great job with this. I would Sako, I think she might have had to hop off. Christine was on here. She does a great job. Katie is on. She does a really great job of this too. If you follow Katie Wilson, she like just is awesome about speaking into her stories and she'll share like you don't even really this is like the sweet spot, right? Is like you don't even really realize she's selling you something. She's just like sharing something that works for her. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I think I need that too. So that's the best is when you can share how you're doing it in your own life. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and share this back again. The next one too is sharing on your stories personal life. And so this is just as important. Like, if I ever have too many stories about product on my Instagram feed, I'm like, oh, I can't talk about another product until I have something about my personal life to share because that's going to build trust with people. They're going to realize that you're a real person who actually cares about them, who actually is sharing these products to help them. So that's the other piece with the Instagram stories is to have something about your personal life every day. So let's go ahead and spend about 5 minutes just getting something up to our Instagram stories for today. And once you have that up, go ahead and post in the chat and let us know whether it was a Shackley product or whether it was something about your personal life that you posted to your stories. Bobby Joe just said, and I think this is I'm glad you said that because I think a lot of people feel the same way. She's like, I find the personal stuff harder. And I think that can be the case. And so just my biggest piece of advice, so just be like, don't overcomplicate it. One thing that someone said to me early on was like, don't create, just document. And I think that is the key. Like, I know for you, you might go, gosh, who wants to see my kitchen or who wants to see my kids or whatever? It might just feel so basic. But it's usually the basic stuff. Like that's, I think, what people are craving more and more on social media. Um, Lately, Christy has been sharing a lot more personal stuff on her stories, and I love it. Like, I love when she shares Paul and what they're doing. I love when she shares her dogs or her dog. Like, I just love when she is sharing like what else she's doing besides Exactly. And I think that's how other people feel about you too. Oh, Corey just shared the other, and this is the stuff people remember, by the way. It's the personal stuff that people remember. Like the other day, Corey shared something hilarious that her daughter did, where she like played a joke on her dad, where she's like her daughter said, "Hey dad, there's water running out of the dishwasher," and her daughter had set up tennis shoes with water bottles coming out from the dishwasher, and it was just like so cute. And like that's the stuff that people remember is when you share the behind the scenes personal stuff. So just don't overthink it. But that's what they're going to connect you on to remember you for. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. Once you feel free to finish up the stories if you're working on those and post in the chat once you have your stories done. I posted about the cheer up and chill out gummies because those have come in handy this week for me with having sick kids in the house. Um, Oh, Tanya, this is great. So this is what Tanya said. She said, I built my stories into my habits. Every day I post an encouraging message graphic from Instagram or a Bible verse. I post a workout selfie to keep me accountable on my fitness journey. I share one or two things that my kids do throughout the day. Last night was pics from a basketball game. and I'll add in a product, call to action for my group, or part of my routine. I love that. That's like the best way to do it. It is. I find stories can be really like fun to add into your routine once you kind of get the feel for them. Liz said she posted about leucine in our Life Shakes in her free group. I love that. Kristen said she did two personal stories about her kids at a local store that does crafts twice a month. Oh, that's a great idea. Like that's a value add, right? Someone watching you be like, "Oh, I didn't know that store had that. That's great." And then they'll think of you when they go want to go bring their kids to do that. Um, she also shared that the season of parenting a 3-year-old is can be hard, and then she had a call to action asking for tips on how to get a 3-year-old to listen. I love that. That's great. Okay, awesome. Oh, yes, Bobby Joe, smart to post about the team call. I know that is really a great idea too. Anytime you're like, have the chance to sort of share behind the scenes of working on the business, that's really great because you want people to kind of see what it is that you do as well. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Okay, so after the Instagram stories, we have replying to all comments and messages. So this is one thing that I would encourage you to do if you feel like you're a little scattered, wondering if you're like not always getting all the messages and stuff. So what I have done too, you guys, is like I have all notifications turned off on my social media. And I would encourage you to do the same thing. I know when someone first told me that, I like freaked out because I was like, what do you mean? Like, I need to know, what's happening and what if someone reaches out? Well, it's okay. Like, because you should be determining how you spend your time and being proactive instead of totally reactive. And so what I like to do is I have my notifications off, but that way, when I go into Instagram, then I see everything and then I can catch up on my own terms. And if you do not answer someone's message in 2 minutes, it's going to be okay. Like you don't want, like I said, you don't want this to take over your whole life. But I do like to build this into my power hour, like when I sit down to work, that at least once a day, I try to catch up on messages. Because then you can kind of go, okay, yep, I'm caught up there. That's not to say I won't reply to messages throughout the rest of the day, but just to have that on your list, so that you can respond to everything. Just going through your free group, making sure you comment or reply to stuff there, going through Instagram messages, going through Facebook messages, texts, all that kind of stuff. Um, okay, the next thing, and this is probably the one that people will like to skip over, is sending invitations and follow-ups. This is something that takes like a little more courage, especially when you're starting, because it's really tempting to just like I'm good. I'm just going to let people kind of come to me. But here's what I'll remind you is that, first of all, if people are now, I am not necessarily one that advocates for sending all kinds of cold messages for people that like you have no idea who they are. However, for the people that are already following you and watching your stories, those are really great people to be inviting to whatever you have going on next. So, one of the things that I like to do still, even though things are a little bit different here than, when I was running workout groups, it was like we had a workout group starting once a month or challenge group. We still have different events that you can invite to, and that's why we do different things. Like we'll have our wands test group or a skincare group, or we have longevity club because we want you to have reasons and dates to be able to have to like reach out and invite people. But what I would say for you is like, of course you're gonna do your calls to actions. You will get a few people that reach out. But if you're someone that you're like in 2025, I really want to take my business like to the next level. I want to hit director. You really then have to be intentional to invite and follow up. So when you're sending out invites, biggest piece of advice is just be you. Like, don't feel like you have to have the perfect words or whatever, but like, what would you say to someone in person should be very similar to what you would say when you are talking to someone online. And so if they're watching your stories though, like let's say you do stories about the natural Botox wands, and then you see that they watch your stories. You could invite them and just be like, hey, not sure. And I always say this, because I don't want to like assume that they saw what I put out there because sometimes they don't, right? Sometimes it might show that they watch your stories and they're just like scrolling through. But I will oftentimes say like, hey, I'm not sure if you've seen me share about the natural Botox swabs, but they're absolutely amazing. Maybe you already have a skincare routine that you love, but if not, I would love to share this with you. We have this fun group coming up, but we're gonna do like a challenge to get rid of our wrinkles. If it's ever something you want to do, like I'd love to have you. Would it be okay to send you more info? Just something very natural, right? Like something that you would say to a friend. And so the people that are watching your stories, those are great. Those are really great people to invite. The people that are in your free group, the people that are in your free Facebook group, like intentionally messaging them to invite them, that goes a long way. And what I want you to keep in mind is when you invite, like you're going to get no's or you're going to get ghosted. And that's just the reality. That's totally normal. That's nothing wrong with you. That's just sales, right? Like when you invite, you're going to get people that say, oh, thanks, but no thanks. You're going to get people that are like, I'm not even going to respond to her because I don't even know what to say. This is awkward. So like, don't get in your head when they ghost you. Just think like every time you send an invite, it's a way that you're planting a seed. It's a touch point. And people need a lot of those touch points before they're going to say yes. But you just being genuine and inviting them, like that's what you need to be doing. And the follow-ups too, like if someone reaches out for information, for example, and I mean, this happens a lot, I would say, especially to new ambassadors. Maybe if you haven't worked this kind of a business before, that you'll get like so excited because you'll have like 3 or 4 people reach out for information, and then you send them and you're like, oh my gosh, they're interested. And then they don't bite, right? Like they don't order and you're like, oh man, I really thought like that was going to be the people that bought from me this week. Well, it never is the people you expect. I'll just say that like the people that you think are going to buy right now usually are not the ones that buy right now. And so that's why it's so important that you have more than just 3 or 4 people that you're talking to at all times. Because the idea here is that the top of your funnel, we'll just use that analogy of like a sales funnel. The top of the funnel is so wide. And why is that? Because there has to be so many different conversations going on so that enough of them then get to the bottom of the funnel where you do get a few yeses. But typically, if you were to reach out to 10 people today, maybe one would say yes today. Like that's typically the percentage, right? So I share that not to discourage you, but to normalize the fact that when it comes to sales, you have to show up consistently. You have to keep inviting, and it has to be more than just the same 3 or 4 people that you're following up with. And you don't have to, a lot of times I'll hear, oh, like I just can't control what people are going to buy. Like, I mean, I'm talking to a few people, but I don't know. Well, you're right. You can't control that, but what you can control is the amount of people that you're talking to. And so what I'll say, for the people that, you're like, I want to ramp up my sales this year, it's like really just a matter of you sharing more consistently on social media and having more conversations and then keeping track of those conversations too. So like if you have, let's say you invite someone and they say like they ghost you, that's okay. I don't really track until they give me something to track. I'll just say that. Like until they're like somewhat interested, I won't really track because to me, like having a ton of conversations is way more important than me spending my time tracking those tons of conversations until they say, sure, maybe. Like as soon as I get a maybe or sure, send me more info, that's when I start tracking. And that's when I'm like making my list of, okay, this is who I need to follow up with in the future. And for the people that are having success with personal sales, it really is as simple as just you guys doing the work behind the scenes. It's not, and you'll notice that like in our personal sales report, the people that are having more sales, it's not always the people that have a lot of people following them on social media. I mean, I see Mel on here, like she's been at the top of our personal sales since she started, and she just works really hard behind the scenes. And that is what I find to be very encouraging about Shaklee is that hard work really does level the playing field here. Like if you are working consistently, having conversations, inviting, following up, you will get people to say yes to you if you can continue to do it over time. really the only thing that is going to hold you up is if you're wishy-washy, like if you're like 1 week on and then the next week you're like nowhere to be found. Because what happens is the people that are watching you, they're like, is she doing that thing? Like, I thought so, but maybe not. But the more that you show up and that you're just confident, even when you don't have the sales yet, you like kind of have to just trust and have faith that they will come. That's where people really do end up winning here, is when they stick with it. So does anyone have like, I mean, and Mel, I see you're on and I can see your face. Like, do you have any tips for people? Because you are really good about this. Like, you post consistently, but then you aren't afraid to follow up and invite and ask them. Like, first of all, like, how do you get the courage? And maybe what are some things that you say that seem to like resonate with people?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, that'd be awesome if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, I mean, I feel like I'm in month three, and I mean, I feel like things are still super messy, and I definitely like doubt myself, and I still kind of like question, but I do know, like with my running, that like a training plan and consistency does compound over time. And so I try to relate it to my business because sometimes I don't feel 100% super confident every day to put out stuff out there. Some days I'm like, I don't even know what to post. I don't know what people want to know. Life's crazy because I have 4 kids and whatnot. But I do have a like my own tracker. Like I kind of did your tracker, but did like what kind of like satisfies me in my business. And so I do have my like morning routine that I do go through. But I will say, like, this week I feel off on my post, but I do have a lot of behind the scenes direct messages going out. And I'll say a lot of it too. Like, it isn't all feel like it is all social media. My kids are so heavily involved in sports that am always talking to people outside of social media. I'm a very like I don't like talking on here right now because it's nerve wracking to me. But if I am like face to face with you, I'm like more comfortable, and like people will see my stuff on social media, but then they'll talk to me in person at my kids' practices and games and things like that. So that's when I feel actually more confident in sharing like what I'm doing, and then I kind of feel like I get better feedback from them, like when we're face to face, because like I'm not waiting for them to respond and then 3 days later I'm like, what were we talking about, like, so it just feels more personal. So I will say the face to face does help, and always talking about it, like when I'm in public, I think also helps me too. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I don't have like any secret tricks or magic. I just try to be on here and connect to the group as much as I can, and life just ebbs and flows. And so I just try to do the best that I can to keep showing up daily, even though some days I'm like knocking out of the park and some days I'm like just like struggling to like get my list done. But yeah, like you said, just keep going and it'll naturally just sort of happen.
Awesome. That's so good. And I am so glad you mentioned the face to face, because that is so good and so true. That what's interesting is a lot of people at Shackley that have success, they don't necessarily get all their sales through social media. And I love that. But I think what you said of like when you're posting on social media, then when you do get in person, they're like, hey, what was that? Like, I'll get that a lot. Like, I just had that at the gym the other day. I ran into someone and she goes, what are those Botox ones that you've been posting about? She's like, because I really want to try those. Well, it wasn't because I invited her online. It was like I had been posting, she saw it, and then she brought it up naturally in conversation. So I'm really glad you mentioned that. And yeah, not to be afraid to have those conversations in person too, because I think the more confidence you have, the better. But thanks for that reminder of just showing up imperfectly as well, because that's just it is what it is, right? I mean, even look at my tracker. Very rarely this tracker that I'm showing you, will I have every box checked every week. But I still have success in this business because I just keep trying, right? And I keep failing forward day after day. So thank you so much for sharing. Susan, I see you back on. Do you mind if I ask you as well? Because you also are very good at this. I mean, last month, holy moly, you all of a sudden sold so many of those 5 day resets. And I just feel like you have that gift of connecting with others too. So, and I know you as well do the inviting online and in person. You're not afraid to have those conversations, but any tips that you have to share with us?
Well, I I think consistency too. I heard it like this, and this really helped me. When they come into your stories, they are walking into your store. And so picture like if you had a store, you would never let someone come in and not say hi to them. So at least say hi, and you have those people, you probably like me, you have these people that are every day, they're showing up, but you're like, come on, I know you're interested, you're showing up every day. So maybe one day send them a recipe, one day send them, a Bible scripture, and then the next day go, hey, we're having this challenge, come and join me, and just kind of, mix it up a little bit. But I wouldn't say I do it every day, but most every day I'm like, they walked into my store and I didn't say hi to them. Gotta say hi and invite them. And I have found another thing that helped me is like I'll invite somebody so many times I'm like, oh man, I'm probably bugging them. And then they come back and they say, oh my goodness, thank you for not giving up on me. And I was like, well, there you go.
That's so good. I love that. Oh, thanks for sharing. I love that analogy because it really like empowers you to have the conversation versus
Yeah,
like, oh, I'm scared. So,
yeah,
yeah.
they're showing up. Say hi, at least.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
so good. I love that. Okay, those are really great tips. Does anyone else have anything that they want to share that has been working well? Just in having those inviting and like kind of taking the pressure off, right? Because I do think that's what happens. Like we get to that point in the tracker and we're like, oh, like I'm kind of frozen. Like, what do I say? How do I invite? So, any other tips that you guys have? I'd love to hear them. Trisha, you're another one that I love following your stories because you are just like so genuine. And I'm like, how does she do it all? You have all these kids and you're just like so real, but I think and maybe this is the secret for you and others that have success is like you are just so genuine. Like I feel like when I watch your stories, I'm like, I could just be sitting in your kitchen or when you're doing your skincare, like I could just be like sitting with you in your bathroom. You're like, give me this tutorial. But like, I just think it's a gift that sometimes that's hard to teach, but do you have like, I mean, if you wouldn't mind sharing, what gives you the courage to like do that every day? Because I know a lot of people, they're just not quite, to that point.
Sorry, my grown children are calling me right now. I would actually say for me, posting things in reels are really awkward and uncomfortable for me. But that's actually what I did with my stories is I started thinking I like talking to people one-on-one. I usually have conversations in my kitchen, not in my bathroom, but um, those were the easiest for me to get done is just like I'm already doing that stuff anyways. So I try to imagine just like talking to one person. Um, and that's it. It takes all the pressure off if I'm just talking to one person. And I started stressing about how to show up when things weren't perfect. And it really stressed me out. Like I kept thinking my house isn't clean. I have all these dogs and kids. I never know if my kids are going to come up. And I started getting stressed. So that I thought the only thing that I can do is just talk in my stories when things are just regular, just cooking or doing, and whenever I'm using the product. And I like how you said that documenting, instead of actually like, that's the only way I can think of it is like, this is what I'm really doing. So I'll just share that with people. But for me, I also had to like look at it and say, I feel like most people connect with me in my stories, not my reels. All the things that take all that time, they never do. It's stories. And that's when I usually get people talking to me. So I just kind of went with it.
I love that. I love that. And isn't that so true? Like I just had that thought the other day because I was just feeling like, oh my gosh, my house is crazy. And like, will I ever get to a point where I'm just like not like, yeah, because sometimes you're like, oh, it has to be perfect to get on, like to share. And it's like so not true because the people that they actually want to see your mess. They actually want to feel like what they have going on is normal, And so I almost like what I'm trying to tell myself is like you, like when you have those moments of I'm a hot mess. Like, don't be ashamed of that. Just like, actually, everyone is in their own way. So why not just like share it, right? So I love that. Thank you. And oh, Katie, you're so sweet. No, I like genuinely love following all of you guys. Like, I get the best ideas from you. And I mean, Yeah, Katie's another one you guys have to follow. Like she's just hilarious. No, for real. I'm like you. I probably talk about you too much, but again, just real life, right? Like I was telling her because they were down in Naples last week, and I was like, I just love it. She'll like get out she's like just mommy, and she'll like have her kid sippy cup. She'll be filling it with milk. She's talking about something, and it's like, yes, like that's what we're all doing. Like we're all just doing life, and so I think that really is what draws the connection in, and then to actually just invite people like you would in real life. It doesn't have to be awkward. It doesn't have to be copy paste like 100 to, all these people. It's just building those authentic relationships because at the end of the day, here's what I want us all to remember too, is you don't even need that many, like we think we need thousands of customers. You don't even need thousands of customers to build a really solid business here. So just keep doing what you're doing. Okay, really quick. And then I know we're out of time. Okay, so the last thing on here, just to check in, with your customers, check in with your working ambassadors, see how they're doing. I know when it comes to customers, it goes a long way when you just check in and you're like, hey, how are you liking, your vitamins? Like, are you taking them regularly? How are you feeling with your 5-day reset? Did you have a chance to finish it? Like all of that kind of stuff. Just being intentional. And again, we're not about numbers, right? Like, yes, we want to have these big businesses, but I know for all of us on this team, we probably say it's only fulfilling to have big businesses if we feel like we're connected to the people that we're working with and that we are really encouraging and checking in on them. So that's the last thing on here. But I would just say, like, with this tracker, or if you follow one similar to this or a little different, like it is helpful though to cross them, like if you can, and I know it's hard to do this sometimes because life is busy, but if you can print this off or have it on your phone and check it off electronically, at the end of the week, what I do like to do, and usually I'll do this at the end of the day on Friday, is I'll just kind of look back at my week and I'll go, okay, what are the areas that I feel like I did really well? What are the areas of the tracker that I like totally bombed on this week because I'm going to try to be better the next week? And then you just keep failing forward. But I can promise you this, that if you stick to this tracker, um, it will create success for you as you just figure out how to go about this. And also always let us know. Bye, Christy. Also let us know if you have questions too, like that come up, right? Like if you're like, gosh, I'm struggling with my inviting, or I have a roadblock when it comes to creating content, like whatever it is, because everything in this business is figure outable if you can just hang in there and create that consistency. Is there any questions that anyone has about anything we covered today? I know, again, this is very basic, but I hope that's encouraging to you because it is doing these basic things day in and day out that you will find success. And if you're lacking that belief or confidence to share the products, go into the back office. There's also Shackley TV. I will have that on if I'm doing dishes or something where I'm just kind of folding laundry, whatever mindless stuff I'm doing, just to learn about the products. And it always builds my confidence to want to share more once I am more educated about what we have to offer. So, Andrea, I'm so glad you're on live. It's so good to see you. Oh, I love that, Lauren. She said that she writes in her journal of the affirmations and goals and why those goals matter. That's so good because that will keep us showing up. And Lauren, you are one of the most consistent people. I just have to say, like, you just are awesome when it comes to that consistency. Like, you're always in my feed, and I'm like, oh, if I could just be like Lauren, because she's just like always there. I love it. Okay, well, you guys, thank you so much for popping on, and I'll get this recording up. If you have any questions at any time, please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, we'll talk to you later. Bye.